You never think a single moment can turn your life upside down, until it does. One sunny afternoon, I was sipping coffee on my porch, enjoying the peace of my quiet neighborhood. Everything was calm, normal, and utterly uneventful. That calm would not last. Out of nowhere, the wailing of helicopter blades filled the sky. I squinted upward, shielding my eyes from the sun, and saw a bright yellow rescue helicopter hovering above my property. My heart sank. Someone had called emergency services, someone who clearly knew my exact address. Moments later, the helicopter touched down on my backyard. Not the front lawn, not the street, but my backyard, carefully chosen for emergency safety. The paramedics jumped out, rushing toward a neighbor who had collapsed during her morning jog. I stayed back, keeping out of their way. While they worked efficiently and professionally, the scene lasted no more than 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes would set off a chain of chaos I couldn't have imagined. No sooner had the helicopter lifted off than my doorbell rang, and there she was. The infamous HOA Karen, armed with a clipboard and a glare sharp enough to cut glass. Her eyes darted suspiciously across my lawn, clearly calculating, judging, accusing. "What is going on here?" she demanded, her voice dripping with indignation. I explained calmly. "A rescue helicopter landed for a medical emergency. That's all." Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips twisting into that signature smirk. "We've received complaints. People are saying you're operating a secret airport," she declared. My coffee nearly went down the wrong pipe. A secret airport? For one helicopter? The absurdity hit me like a brick, but I tried to reason with her. "It's literally a one-time emergency landing. That's all. No airport, no planes, no runway, just a medical emergency." Her notepad shook slightly in her hands as she scribbled furiously, muttering about rules, violations, and the community's safety. Her accusations grew wilder by the second. "What if it happens again? What if you start flying helicopters regularly? We can't have air traffic in this neighborhood." I blinked, stunned, but also increasingly frustrated. How could one emergency turn into this bureaucratic nightmare? Little did I know this confrontation was just the beginning. Karen wasn't satisfied with words. She wanted action, and once she got a taste of what she could unleash, she would stop at nothing to escalate her accusations. What started as a moment of human compassion was about to spiral into the most bizarre HOA battle I'd ever faced. The next morning, I awoke to a stack of official-looking envelopes on my doorstep. My heart sank before I even opened them. As I carefully unfolded the first letter, the bold, intimidating header read, "HOA violation notice." My stomach twisted. Apparently, the rescue helicopter incident was now considered operating an unlicensed airfield. In the eyes of the HOA, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Each letter seemed more ridiculous than the last. One warned of potential fines for repeated airborne activity, while another demanded that I provide a full plan for helicopter traffic management on my property. I reread the words, hoping my eyes were deceiving me. But no, it was real. The HOA had officially declared my backyard a flight zone, without a single shred of actual evidence of wrongdoing. Determined to defend myself, I went to the next HOA meeting. The room was tense, filled with neighbors who looked equally anxious and confused. Karen, of course, was already there, taking meticulous notes and casting sharp glances at anyone who dared question her authority. As I stood to explain the situation, she immediately interrupted. "We're here to protect our community from unauthorized aviation activities," she announced, as if the words themselves carried undeniable weight. I took a deep breath. "There was one helicopter for an emergency. That's all. This is not a regular occurrence. There's no airport. There's no runway. This is a medical emergency, not a hobby or business." Thought my explanation would be met with understanding. But Karen had already launched into her next assault. She claimed she had spoken to several concerned neighbors, who supposedly feared their safety and property values were at risk because of my airfield. The room buzzed with murmurs. Some neighbors looked horrified. Others looked like they were stifling laughter. I could feel the absurdity of the situation pressing down on me. Yet Karen remained unyielding. She continued presenting diagrams. She'd drawn herself lines of imaginary flight paths crisscrossing our quiet neighborhood, arrows pointing to every house as if a helicopter could magically swoop through them at will. After hours of debate, it became clear that the HOA wasn't interested in facts. They were interested in control. Every argument I presented, every logical explanation, was met with resistance. By the end of the meeting, I left feeling exasperated and powerless. But I also realized that this wasn't just about a helicopter anymore. This was about authority, ego, and one person's obsession with enforcing rules to the extreme. Little did I know, Karen's next move would escalate things even further. Complaints would turn into fines. Fines would turn into legal threats. and the neighborhood that once felt peaceful would become a battleground, all because of a single emergency landing. It didn't take long for the HOA's next move to land on my doorstep. A crisp, intimidating notice announcing a 500 fine for unauthorized helicopter activity. Stared at it in disbelief. A single rescue helicopter. And now, I was being penalized as if I'd turned my backyard into an international airport. My first reaction was anger. My second was confusion. How could something so absurd be taken seriously? Determined not to be intimidated, I drafted a response, carefully documenting the emergency, including statements from the paramedics who had landed on my property. I included medical reports, timestamps, and even photos of the helicopter as it took off. I sent the evidence to the HOA, hoping for reason, clarity, and maybe a bit of sanity. But logic, I quickly realized, was a foreign language in Karen's world. Her retaliation was swift. Within days, I received more letters, each one more ridiculous than the last. One demanded that I submit a weekly air activity report. Another instructed me to install radar detection systems to monitor future helicopter traffic. At this point, it felt like I was living in a parody. But Karen wasn't joking. She believed with unwavering conviction that I was a threat to neighborhood safety. Despite zero proof to support her claims, neighbors began whispering, some in curiosity, some in fear. Rumors spread that I was secretly running flights at night or storing planes in my garage. Each conversation, each sideways glance, reinforced the surreal tension. I had never imagined a simple act of emergency assistance could spiral into a full-blown harassment campaign. Legal notices soon followed. Threats of lawsuits, demands for community, hearings, and even hints of calling in local authorities to investigate. Potential air traffic violations piled up. I started keeping a log of every interaction, photographing every letter and email. My life became a mixture of daily vigilance and constant frustration. It wasn't just about the helicopter anymore. It was about defending my rights, my property, and my sanity. Amid the chaos, I realized something important. Karen thrived on control. She had no interest in facts, safety, or fairness. Her goal was power. Power over the narrative, power over neighbors, and power over my life. Each new fine, each letter, each threat was a weapon designed to exhaust me. And it worked. For a while I doubted myself, questioned if I should just give in. But something inside me refused to be bullied. As tensions escalated, I knew the confrontation was far from over. Karen's obsession was intensifying, and with each passing day, the HOA seemed more determined to make my life a nightmare. Little did I know, the final showdown would push both sides to the brink, uncover secrets, and reveal just how absurd things could truly get. By now, the tension in the neighborhood had reached a breaking point. Every time Karen appeared, neighbors whispered, eyes wide with curiosity, sympathy, or outright amusement. I could feel the entire community watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Meanwhile, my own frustration had grown into a simmering determination. I wasn't going to let this absurd, secret airport accusation define my life. The HOA called another meeting, promising urgent discussions regarding air safety. I knew this was Karen's stage, her moment to escalate things further. As I entered the meeting room, I could already feel the hostility in the air. Karen, armed with a folder thicker than my laptop, was ready to present her case like a prosecutor in court. "We need to ensure our community's safety," she declared, waving diagrams of imaginary flight paths. Her intensity was palpable. Her logic was non-existent. I stood, took a deep breath, and addressed the room calmly but firmly. This all started because a rescue helicopter landed in my backyard, an emergency situation. There is no airport, no flights, no plans to operate one. The accusations and fines are baseless, and they are causing unnecessary stress, fear, and disruption in our neighborhood. I handed out copies of my evidence, paramedic statements, photos, and timestamps. The room fell silent as neighbors read the proof. Karen's face flushed red. She tried to argue, pointing to her charts, muttering about potential risk scenarios. But the truth was undeniable. The community could see through the absurdity of her claims. One by one, neighbors began speaking up. They described the rescue situation, praised my cooperation, and even shared their own experiences of Karen's overreach in other matters. The tide had turned. Frustrated and cornered, Karen eventually stomped out, leaving behind the echoes of her indignation. The board reluctantly acknowledged that her accusations were unfounded. All fines were rescinded, and official statements cleared my name. Relief washed over me, but more importantly, a sense of vindication. I had stood my ground, armed with facts and reason, and emerged victorious. In the aftermath, the neighborhood gradually returned to normal, though Karen's reputation remained tarnished. I rebuilt relationships, reassured neighbors, and even laughed about the ridiculous secret airport rumor that had taken on a life of its own. The incident became a story of resilience, proof that even the most absurd challenges can be overcome when you remain calm, persistent, and evidence-driven. Looking back, it's unbelievable that a single helicopter could spark such chaos. But it also serves as a reminder. In life, you can't control everyone's perception, but you can control your response. By standing firm, documenting the truth, and refusing to be bullied, I reclaimed my peace, my property, and my sanity. And for anyone who doubts it, yes, this really happened. If you enjoyed this wild HOA drama, make sure to subscribe for more crazy stories. Hit that like button and tell us in the comments, what would you do if a secret airport landed in your backyard?